let's go ahead and get into this first story. This is kind of a monster of a story. We have a lot to unpack here, but this is about Trump's apparently this story broke that he is going to be, now the operative word is going to, because it hasn't happened yet. It might not happen, but it seems that Trump is going to declare Palestine a state. There will be a Palestinian state declared. If that happens, that'll be unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. Even if it's done in kind of a throwaway way, it will be something. If it comes out of his mouth or it comes out of his Truth Social, whatever it is, or an official White House statement, it will be a big deal. So let's look at the story that broke, or we saw this, I think about 2 days ago. This came out, the Jerusalem Post, that Donald Trump to announce U.S. recognizes Palestinian state, Gulf diplomatic source claims. And it seems that this is something, according to the bottom of this, the Saudi Arabia will host the Gulf U.S. summit in mid-May during Trump's Mideast visit. So that's happening right now. He's there right now. The speculation swirls over a major announcement on a Palestinian state and peaceful U.S.-Saudi nuclear, and I always miss the bottom. I got to take that off. Nuclear cooperation. Yeah. So far, it's leaning in the direction that this is on track to happen. We just saw a speech Trump gave right like this morning. I'm going to play a clip of this. I want to get your thoughts on this, Jay. But there's some backstory to this as well. We want to maybe reference that this just didn't come out of nowhere. There's been a build up to this. So I'm going to play this speech, and then I want to talk about how we got to where we are. This is Trump talking in Saudi Arabia this morning. Even this speech itself sounds very, I would say at the least, refreshing. Even if it doesn't go anywhere. Let's hear the words coming out of our president's mouth. Here we go.
Transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
Jay Scott, are these just nice sounding feel good words, or is there something else going on here?
I don't think, Trump believes that we need to recognize a Palestinian state in order for those goals he mentioned just now to be accomplished. I think he believes that you need to get a deal between Saudi Arabia, and Iran for what he's describing to happen, because those are the countries that, are two of the biggest in the region, aside from Israel, that, have had a lot of friction. And then I believe, obviously, he's going to try to continue to push for peace between, the other places too. But the truth is, I kind of look at it the same way. I heard Trump say that he's going to end the war between Ukraine and Russia on day one,
Yeah.
as soon as he gets into office. I think, maybe it's good that we're actually talking about this, just like how it's good that we're talking about ending the war in Ukraine. But has it actually happened yet? I haven't seen that happen yet, and right now we're teetering between like whether or not we even continue to supply them weapons again, because the weapons that Biden had, designated for Ukraine are about to run out. I believe it's like mid next month. So at that point, we're going to see Trump, more than likely push to give more weapons over there. So either that or, Ukraine's just going to collapse on itself, and his way of dealing with Ukraine is just going to be to let it like essentially collapse. But with this deal that we just signed with them, I think that's unlikely, because now we have interest, like in Ukraine. So we'll see how it plays out. But as far as this goes, Palestine being recognized would run counter to almost everything else he's done up to this point, because you had people in the streets protesting for the rights of Palestinian people, and they were designated as terrorists. Then you had Trump coming in and saying that they're going to take all the Palestinians out of Palestine, ship them somewhere else, and then he's going to take over. Well, not Palestine, Gaza specifically, which is a big part of what Palestine's supposed to be, right? So how can you now do away with that whole plan you had before? Like the same people, they're still, deporting people, man. They're still like going after people who were criticizing the Israeli government. So how are you going to establish a Palestinian state if you're not able to criticize the Israeli government at all? Because I personally think those two ideas contradict each other. So that's my opinion. I'll believe it when I see it. I hope that he's going to do it. I hope that he's really just planning on pulling a fast one on Israel, as some of his supporters online truly believe. But personally, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards you on that. But let's look a little closer at how we got to even the fact, like you said, we're having this discussion, which is a good thing. So it's the Trump and Netanyahu, what we're calling is kind of this apparent breakup that occurred. So we saw this come out at on AF Post. President Trump has cut contact with Netanyahu, slamming the Israeli prime minister and his allies for acting arrogant and trying to push him around. Trump reportedly feels disrespected and manipulated by Netanyahu. So when I saw this broke, Jay, I was thinking, that thing we talk about Trump's ego, we talk about that. Obviously, this is not a discussion about moral compass. If it was moral compass, we would have said out loud from day one, this is a genocide occurring and we're paying for it. So he's not stupid. He knows that we've been doing that. This is the hold Israel has had on all of our administrations. But the fact that he's saying, I feel disrespected, to me, it feels like there might be something being said here that we've never heard a president say. You might have to even go all the way back to JFK to get somebody literally in office saying we're being disrespected by Israel. That's pretty big deal, I think. And the reason I think that disrespect is happening is because this is very similar to what I'm seeing is a similar thing happened with Mike Pompeo in his first administration, when he realized Mike Pompeo was in there to push the war agenda in the Middle East, particularly with Syria. And he was so furious, not because it was morally wrong to go and bomb Syria, but because it was done in a manipulative, I'm smarter than you kind of way. And Mike Waltz was the guy. I think this was the trigger for him having enough with the disrespect, which is Mike Waltz. And this is also from AF Post. It turns out he was caught using a Signal chat, which is an Israeli modified version of Signal. And this was the way he was communicating directly with Netanyahu. So he literally had a spy on his team communicating behind his back to Netanyahu. Of course, Mike Waltz isn't in prison for treason. He's not getting reprimanded. He just got moved to a different position.
Exactly.
But the point is, this reminds me of, you don't try and undermine Trump and pretend you're smarter than him, because he has to be the smartest one in the room from his vantage point. That's why I think that this is happening publicly right now. Do you think there's anything there, or is the whole thing just theater and it's just here to make us think something's happening?
Yeah, maybe it's a strategy to kind of pressure Israel and Netanyahu to like ease up and back off a little bit, because from what I understand, Trump said that, he was against Netanyahu and Israel going back into Gaza and restarting operations over there. And maybe this is a strategy to apply some pressure. However, when the rubber meets the road and things are actually being put into action, the America recognizing Palestine as a state would actually mean several things. It means that now they're going to have to stop the veto that we've been doing at the UN that is preventing Palestine from becoming internationally recognized as a state, right? So that will actually put them on a path to have full sovereignty and to be able to legally have their own army, and have control over their own borders, which they do not ultimately have right now. So personally, I find it hard to believe that Trump would go that far, considering how much monetary influence, Zionists have had on his campaign, considering how much, influence they have in business in general, like in the country, because that's not even saying that all the influential business people are Jewish, but all of them that I can think of, the overwhelming majority of them are very strong Israel supporters. So if you go against Israel, it's not just about getting reelected. Trump's a money guy. Like Trump wants to make sure his businesses, are going to flourish after he leaves office. And that would make his life very difficult if he decided to recognize Palestine as a state. So, maybe they are trying to tone down Netanyahu a bit so they can work out some other deals with the other Middle East states. But, I personally find it very hard to believe that he would do it. And I also don't believe that he's cut off Netanyahu. I think that's just an exaggerated headline. Maybe they're having, like a little bit of a disagreement, but like if you Google, Trump Netanyahu right now, you'll see that they're still talking, intermittently. So the relationship isn't completely gone, but it's possible that either Trump is upset about Israel overstepping their bounds, or they're embarrassed because now the public can see how much unregulated influence Israel is having in politics more than ever before. Like that relationship is being scrutinized with a microscope. So if all this is done publicly, maybe it still, gives Trump a chance to keep his pride and gives the American people the idea that we still have autonomy and we can make decisions without Israel. But personally, I think it's being exaggerated. I don't think Netanyahu and Trump have stopped talking.
Okay. Yeah, well, look, there was a hostage deal done that apparently Israel had nothing to do with. And there's a lot of these MAGAs, half the MAGAs, as we know, are make Israel great again. That's what they are. They have no problem saying it. They wear their red hat, says MAGA, but they fully believe that even the fact that we're talking about this and Trump is talking about this, they're furious right now. And they're trying to pretend that everybody's in line. I don't think I think Netanyahu is furious that he's not part of any of this. This is a report I just saw. I want your take on this one, Jay, from Netanyahu and how he's responding right now. This from AF Post. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu has declared that the Israeli military will launch a full-scale military operation in Gaza, even as peace negotiations begin between Trump and the leaders of the Arab world. So he's doubling down when we just got the last American hostage was returned, and he had nothing to do with that deal. And then to add fuel to the fire, to fuel to the fire to Netanyahu, you have our special envoy saying out loud, we want to bring hostages home, but Israel is not willing to end the war. those are strong words to be saying out loud. We've heard Trump allude to that in the past, that one side is less cooperative, but this is the special envoy Witkoff, who I guess engineered the deal for the American hostage. When really it's, I mean, these are POWs because these guys are soldiers, but that's another topic. But Netanyahu had nothing to do with this deal. One more adding fuel to the fire is Trump just said this about Gaza. Again, he's not doing the thing. I don't think either of us think he's actually going to do the thing, but the words he's saying have some sort of merit enough that it's making people like us get excited and inspired. It's making like I said, the make Israel great again half of the Trump crowd, they are livid right now because Trump is saying things like this.
It came up and I said, we gotta be good to Gaza. Those people are suffering. We got to be good to Gaza. We're going to take care of that. There's a very big need for medicine, food and medicine, and we're taking care of it.
In terms of like opening up more access points, or
very hard.
Pushing the Israelis.
We are.
To open up more access
very
points.
Hard to get food and medicine into Gaza.
How did the Prime Minister respond to that?
Well, felt well about it.
Did the Prime Minister feel well about it, or is he just saying those words? I mean, I can tell by you're probably gonna say just words, but I don't believe when I see that, Jay, I don't believe he's actually having a discussion with Netanyahu on this. He's saying these things, and then he's good with it. He's good with it.
But even Biden said, we got to make sure aid gets to Gaza, and we got to help them out and make sure they're not starving and going without medicine over there. So Trump isn't really saying anything new like in that statement. So my thing is, right, if you are Israel, and you are going to restart this operation into Gaza, and you know that your state cannot survive unless the US is backing you up with its full strength, why would you do that if you knew for sure that it was going to sabotage the relationship? So, if Israel wanted to, right, it could freeze the conflict right now, and it could it's already squeezed out the majority of the territory, that was that Gaza had left after the 1967 borders. They could literally stop the conflict right now, and more than likely they would be able to retain the majority of the land they have right now if they were willing to actually make peace with their neighbors. So people's root instinct is survival. I don't think most people are suicidal, especially not these people. So if he is doing that, knowing that he could sabotage the Trump relationship, then it's a signal that Israeli leadership is 100% suicidal, in my opinion, because if America decides one day to stop backing them, then Israel's done. They're surrounded by people who don't want them there. And the only reason they haven't attacked them is because America is backing them up. And the reason people don't want them there is because they took the land by force. They never really tried to be that nice to their neighbors. They're enacting a genocide right now, and they're not willing to make peace with the people who were there before. So, it's not a good situation. So the fact that Netanyahu is willing to do that, and we're not seeing words from Trump, okay, right now, if Israel doesn't stop, we're going to stop supporting them. Notice the difference in tone between how Trump discusses Ukraine versus how he discusses Israel. And he hasn't even stopped supporting Ukraine, really. So, yes, he's said some meaner words, but we're still sharing intelligence with them. And next month will be a make or break point for the war in Ukraine, because Biden's weapons are about to run out. So either the war is going to come to an end because Ukraine will have no more weapons, or Europe is going to go in to try to defend Ukraine. And we're not going to, I highly doubt that we would let Britain and France go in there and get whooped without at least trying to help them out a little bit. Or Trump's, it's either going to be more weapons, the war ends, or Britain and France drag us into a direct confrontation with Russia. That's what's going to happen in Ukraine. So if Trump isn't even willing to go as far as he's going with Ukraine in his rhetoric about Israel, is it really a divorce? That's my question.
No, it's not, at least not now. I mean, anybody reporting that this is a inevitable and happening is not paying attention to even just the verbiage, that the fact that the Jerusalem Post is saying it's to happen. And so it's not even like, so anybody is so excited to see this. This is a thing. It's not a sure thing at all. But it's nice to have the conversation. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, go ahead.
And you know what it does? It gives Trump the ability to get some more favorable responses from other people in the Middle East if they truly believe that there's a chance that Trump may recognize Palestine. Because if you're trying to make deals over there and people see you as 100% aligned with a force they consider hostile over there, you're not going to be able to make any deals, in my opinion.
That's an old venture capitalist trick, to go do a pretend deal in motion in order to present to another deal you really want that you have a deal in motion, only then to sabotage the deal in motion, just so because its usage was only to present to the other people that you really wanted to do the deal with, and then you leave the people hanging. It's an old trick. It's a venture capitalist trick. We see it happen all the time here in LA. It sucks, but it's about positioning and believe me, these guys don't lose any sleep over it, because that's business for you. That's how it goes. But you might be right about that. 100%.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Trump has a trick up his sleeve and he's going to rug pull the Zionists. So let's see.
And if he does, if he has a 5D chess move ready to go, we can't wait to see it happen. We're not going to hold our breath for it, but we also aren't going to forget that this happened. That happened. That's an actual thing. That's out in the Twitterverse, or the interwebs, as they say, and it ain't going anywhere because we have it forever. And this will be
think about what a reversal. And think about what a reversal that would be, from literally deporting people for speaking up for Palestine and talking about Trump Gaza to all of a sudden recognizing a Palestinian state. I mean, he is truly unpredictable. If he does that, that's one thing I'll give him for sure, that he is truly unpredictable.